Welcome to the C-Suite series presented by Channel Check and Noble Capital Markets. Noble's an SEC-registered, FINRA-licensed broker-dealer and the source of the equity research available on Channel Check. Today's interview features Aurania Resources, OTC ticker symbol AUIAF, TSXV ticker symbol ARU. Noble Senior Research Analyst Mark Reichman interviews Aurania's CEO, President, and Chairman Keith Barron. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on Aurania, all at no cost. And now, here's Mark and Keith.
So, for viewers that may not be familiar, would you summarize the company's land holdings in Ecuador?
Well, gosh, we've got a huge package. In fact, I think it's probably the last frontier area left in the Cordillera, both in North and South America. The property is about 500,000 acres. It's a massive 68 miles long and about 35 miles wide. We've been exploring it diligently since 2017, since January 2017. It's covered by heavy jungle. It's kind of like something out of the movies, actually. If you're a Vietnam vet, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's thick jungle. It's never been explored by anyone except way back when by the Spanish conquistadors, and that's going back 500 years.
So what have you accomplished to date, and what types of mineralization has Aurania discovered?
Well, we've taken the approach, we've gone right back to basics on this thing, starting really from scratch. So there's no database, no mineral showings or anything like that in the area. And I used the same methodology that was very successful in my last company, Aurania Resources, where we found a big gold deposit. So we started off with stream sediments and flying airborne magnetics and radiometrics over the entire property. That gave us a good database to work with, and then following up the stream sediments to find where the various mineral showings are. We've done LiDAR, we've done a couple of different techniques looking for conductors. We've done 35 drill holes to date, about 15,000 meters of drilling.
And what types of mineralization have you targeted?
A couple of things we were looking for, and a couple of things came as a surprise. So we started out looking for porphyry copper and looking for epithermal gold. We've got some very strong indications of both. But also we uncovered for the very first time in the Republic of Ecuador silver, copper mineralization in sediments and zinc silver mineralization in sediments along a big structural corridor that goes for a massive 52 kilometers in length. Really quite amazing. But the porphyries and the gold have really been the main focus from day one, and some very interesting things are showing up.
Now, your board approved a strategy focused on core mineral concessions containing epithermal gold and porphyry copper targets. So what led you to narrow your focus?
Well, when, as I said, we didn't expect to come up with these sedimentary hosted things, and we started working on them because they were right at the surface and very obvious targets. Maybe you can say that we got a little bit distracted by it, but the market is the final arbiter in this, and the market spoke, and we were not getting market recognition for what we were doing. So I've taken it back to first principles and gone really for our core competency here, which is porphyry copper and epithermal gold. That's where the experience of myself and most of my staff lays. So that's where we're going after. It's not lost on us that there's a company, one of our neighbors, that now has a market capitalization of $1.5 billion, and the gold price is well above $1,900 an ounce. So we have to take advantage of these and work with things. We have these things on our properties, so it's up to us to develop them into targets and make some nice, healthy discoveries.
So now, what are your immediate plans to explore concessions that are considered core?
A number of different things. So, you know, as I said, we're kind of, to some extent, set the reset button. We've gone back to things that we looked at maybe even a year and a half ago, and some new areas that really have just come open to us. We've signed agreements with the indigenous people in the area. So that's given us access to some new porphyry copper targets and some new epithermal gold targets. So one of them is very exciting because there's artisanal mining going on that concession. We had no idea it was there. But you know, it's they're mining gold, so we don't really have to do stream sediments. I mean, they've already found the gold for us, and it's obvious that it's at surface, so it needs to be explored by us further.
So Aurania will also explore joint ventures and partnerships to advance the non-core mineral concessions that encompass the sediment-hosted copper, silver, and silver zinc. Could you explain how a joint venture might operate and the upside for Aurania shareholders?
Sure, absolutely. Well, you know, I've been talking for at least a year and a half now that if you owned Aurania, it's like owning 5 different junior companies because we have so much optionality, geographically different deposits, different geological settings, and different commodities here. So we've got pretty much something for everyone. However, it's a huge basket of things for a little company like ours to tackle. It's really a bit too much. So the idea would be to take some of the stuff that's not core and find some joint venture partners. And I'm very seriously looking. There are people in the data room today. And the idea would be to, well, I don't know at the end of the day what a deal would be, but let's say just kind of a standard option agreement. We give up 75%. The company in question takes 75%. We're left with a 25% interest, and they carry us through to maybe even to production. But certainly through to a feasibility or maybe a pre-feasibility study. You know, all these things are up for negotiation. But whatever happens, I want to get the best deal for our shareholders, obviously.
Well, and you've already identified significant resource potential there, and so it seems like that would allow the exploration to continue, and Aurania would still retain upside to those concessions, which would be great. So with the refined strategy, how will you identify and separate the core from non-core concessions?
Well, I think we've already done that. So there's a number of concessions with porphyry copper that we've identified. Some things that we never even talked about in the public domain, some targets that still need to be followed up. And then, you know, there's some gold areas, and we suspect there are a few more gold areas that we haven't even looked at yet. And we are actively working very diligently to sign some new access agreements. But we're talking not about large areas of the concession block now, because most of it we've already looked at. I guess more than 75%, but it's scattered all over the place. So that, you know, if there's something that's hiding there, it's probably pretty small, or it doesn't come to surface very well. Yeah, so yeah, we really we know what areas we're going to focus on. Yeah.
So has the COVID situation improved in Ecuador, and are you able to conduct exploration activities in the areas of interest?
Well, they haven't raised the red alert on COVID. I don't know if they will or not, but of course we had the Omicron wave move through like everyone else did. The last report in the last week, there were 86 new cases, in the province where we're working. That's versus 2 weeks ago when there were close to 300. So the numbers are coming down precipitously, like they are everywhere else. You know, most of our staff have had it. They've certainly been double vaxxed, but some of them have had the Omicron on top of that, like a lot of other people around the world. And certainly our stakeholders in the area of the Shuar are not the least bit concerned about it. I think that they've reached herd immunity and they're not worrying about it. So it's really back to business for us, back working normally.
So you recently hired Ms. Carolina Lasso Amaya as head of corporate social responsibility. And, you know, while Aurania has built strong relationships with the Shuar communities, how will Ms. Lasso accelerate the company's efforts to gain access to more areas on the property?
Well, she's already done it. She's, you know, only in the job for 1 week, and she managed to get access to a place called Kim, K-I-M. And this is where there's some artisanal miners, and, you know, artisanal miners are not exactly the most welcoming people because they think you're going to push them off. That's not our scenario. That's not what our intention. Our intention is to work alongside them, and you know, they're not people who are actually taking major value away from the project. But in any case, Carolina worked for my private foundation, which is also working with the Shuar, the Step Forward Foundation, for 2 years. She's very, very familiar with all of the communities, top to bottom, and the concessions. And, you know, she's got about 20 years experience working with groups like the FARC in Colombia. And if she can handle that, she can handle just about anything.
So do you expect to announce any additional talent to your organization?
We are considering, certainly I want to bring some expertise into the company at some point. I want to bring a porphyry copper expert and an epithermal gold expert. Now, you know, over the last couple of years, we have had people like Gregor Borg working with us, and he's certainly an expert on sedimentary hosted deposits. And you know, there's no problem. There's nothing wrong with having somebody looking over your shoulder and you know, giving their 2 cents about what you're doing. There's a lot of people out there in the industry who have more experience in porphyry copper than I have. I've worked on porphyry copper before, but I've actually never discovered one. So you know, we will be bringing some expertise into the company, and I think that's a very positive thing.
Aurania appears to be entering an exciting new phase informed by the extensive work conducted to date. So how would you assess the company's financial ability to achieve your goals?
Well, you know, I've been doing a bunch of interviews over the last couple of days, and one gentleman said to me, he said, you know, Aurania has been in existence for 15 years, not working in Ecuador for 15 years, only since 2017, but for 15 years, and we've only got 52 million shares out. He said, how is that even possible? And I said, well, we've kept it nice and tight, and we've kept the expenses down, and we've tried to get as much bang for our buck. You know, we've completed over $60 million worth of work, and yet we only have 52 million shares out. Isn't that incredible? So, you know, I think that there's a number of things that are going to be drivers here going forward for the company. And gosh, you know, if we have some joy with the porphyry copper story, I think that you know, the potentially the investors, especially the retail people, are going to think that it's very similar to our neighbors to the south, and I think you might even see the stock go bonkers. So you know, that's what I'm preparing for. We always are rather conservative in our outlook, but we are optimists. If we weren't optimists, we wouldn't be in the business.
So now, would you summarize expected milestones in 2022 and the company's value proposition for investors?
Well, certainly we've got a whole bunch of gold targets that we need to follow up. I want to apply a technique that we haven't used before. We've discussed it, but we haven't brought it in yet. In fact, we were intending to bring it in, but we kind of got confronted by the COVID, and the Mexican operators weren't able to enter the country. And that's a magnetotelluric method called CSAMT. It's been used very, very effectively. In fact, there's one company working in Japan that has uncovered, just made a press release today, and uncovered some really, really high-grade gold and silver vein mineralization, which is blind, meaning it doesn't come to surface. Same sort of situation that we have. And they have a silicious cap on it, same sort of situation that we have. But also, I think some major drivers are the porphyry copper story. And we have two things in particular. The first one is Awacha. And we started work on Awacha 4 years ago. Unfortunately, we were not able to enter that area for a number of years. But things have changed around, and we're actively working there now. We did stream sediments 4 years ago. We got copper and moly molybdenum anomalies, and since then we've done an airborne survey over that at MMT, and there's a massive conductor there. It's 3 kilometers by 5 kilometers in size. It's probably a cluster of porphyries. It'll probably resolve down into a cluster, but that's very, very exciting because we know that the conductor goes down to at least 600 meters below surface. We see conductive rocks on surface. We find this type of alteration called quartz sericite pyrite, QSP, very, very indicative of a porphyry. So what else could it be? Probably nothing else. It's almost certainly a porphyry, and we need to poke it with a bunch of holes. But I want to be sure that we poke it in the right place and that we get a nice, healthy intersection from day one. You know, I don't want it to be on the 10th hole or something like that. I want it to be good from the get-go. So we're working very hard to make that happen. Other target is called Tatasham, and Tatasham is the most prominent magnetic target on the whole property. It's 1 kilometer by 3 kilometers in size, very, very high amplitude magnetism, and it's probably what we call a magnetite skarn, hopefully with copper. Certainly there's, you know, there are things like this out there in the world. Freeport-McMoran mines something called Iceberg, which was it translates as Iron Mountain, and that's a similar sort of thing to what we think this is. And that was their major source of copper before Grasberg was found. So it sustained the mining for about 4 or 5 years. You know, this is a whopper. I have no idea what it is. It does not come to surface. We're going to have to drill it to see what it is, but it is very, very compelling target. You know, you can stand across the room and you know, you point at it and you say, what the heck is that thing? So it shows up like a great big blister on the magnetic survey. So that's those are the two major things, but we have a number of other porphyry copper targets that have to get worked up, some of which have had very, very little work done on them. But you know, they show up because of the magnetic survey we did back in 2017. So there's I mean, there's a whole boatload of stuff on this property. I've been in the business for 39 years, and I've never seen a property like this in my entire career. It's really quite astounding.
Well, it certainly would be difficult for others to replicate, you know, similarly large and contiguous land package. And you do have a lot of other mining companies operating to the south. So why is now a good time to invest in Aurania?
Well, I think a lot of the heavy lifting is already done. You know, there's been a lot of money spent on this project, a lot of results that are generated, and they're the sorts of healthy results that I can take to third parties, and it's very, very impressive. And as you say, Mark, you can't replicate this property anywhere else, anywhere in South America or North America, in the Cordillera, where the porphyry copper deposits are residing. You know, we've got an incredible opportunity here. It just keeps firming up and getting better and better with time. Gosh, you know, I really want to see what's not just what's at Awacha, but there's an area to the north of there where I suspect that we may have some more porphyries, and we haven't even walked over that yet. We only got permission to go in there in December. Yeah, you know, there's going to be a lot of drivers, value drivers going forward.
Thank you so much for joining us, Keith.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Mark.
Thank you for joining us for this C-Suite interview presentation brought to you by Channel Check. View our YouTube channel for more video content, including C-Suite interviews, virtual roadshows, and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and the 6,000 other small and micro-cap companies listed.